All right, so it's Veterans Day, and happy Veterans Day, or whatever you want to call it. Happy, whatever. Anyway, have a great day, guys. I'm just out here putzing around, doing nothing basically. A little cleanup work on some parts there. Boy, it's changed weather out here. Got really cold for us. Not super cold. It was, I think, 30 degrees this morning. Going up to a balmy 40 something today, which, not super cold, but that's cold for me. Cold enough anyway. But just like to talk about a couple of people I met or that I've known that are veterans, other than people that are my age or younger. I've known a lot of guys my age and even younger that are veterans, various branches, Navy, Army, Air Force, Marines, even a few Coast Guard guys. But more so dating back to guys that were, Vietnam era guys or Korean War era guys, World War II guys. I've even had a chance to meet a few World War I guys in my life, younger. And they all did their part, and whatever, drafted or signed up, either way. But since I'm working on this BMW, and this guy isn't the U.S. veteran that I'm talking about here, this is a little story from me. I was in Germany and for winter exercise in 85, I think, January of 85, and had to go out on deception, basically, war games type of thing. So whenever you wanted to use somebody's property over there, you had to get their permission and sign forms and all that stuff. And found some place out in the middle of nowhere in the country, and drove up to the house and asked the guy, and it was, maybe 5 degrees outside, something like that. Riding around in a Jeep. The Jeep did have a little heater in it. The heater's like this big, and it doesn't. Basically, it warms. It doesn't get hot. So we asked this guy if we can use his property. Nice old man. At that point, I'm guessing he was probably in his 70s, thereabouts. And being the way he is, he invites us into his house and pours us a drink. It's basically me and another private that are, I think I was still a private then, that are out doing our thing, basically setting up a radio and sending false signals. So a guy invites us in, and I mean, it's like I said, it's cold. It's like 5 degrees, which I don't know what that is in Celsius. Cold. It's just cold. So I mentioned that the cold outside, and the guy kind of chuckles. Old German guy kind of chuckles, and he's like, "Nah." Yeah, in broken English, basically. Nah, it's not cold. So I'm thinking, yeah, whatever. And then he holds his hand up like this, and you could look at the guy. He's missing like part of an ear, and his nose is messed up, and his mouth is messed up, like scarred, like something bad happened to him. Holds up his hands, and he's missing basically 3 fingers on one hand and 2 fingers on the other. And he just goes, "Stalingrad." And, I knew what that was right off the bat because I paid attention in history in school and read a lot about it. So I knew exactly what he was talking about. I mean, not firsthand, but I understood what he meant. So then he points at his feet, and he's got five toes between both feet. And really, that's about it. And it was, like I said, it was cold to me, not really being used to it. I had a friend of the family, just always called him Uncle Mike. That was a Marine Corps guy. He was of Mexican descent from Texas. Nice guy. Just spent 30 plus years in the Marines. I think 33 years, something like that, before he retired. E8, I believe. I don't know if he was a sergeant major or not. I think he was just a master sergeant. But could have been. I really can't remember. But his story was that he actually joined the Marines and, I don't know, 40, whatever. Just say 42, 43, somewhere in there. And forged his birth certificate like a lot of guys did. And 14 years old, went through basic training at 14. And then went on to basically island hopping once he got out there. He named the names, but I can't remember. I want to say Tarawa and Saipan and whatever. It's just island hopping across the Pacific there. But, World War II ended, and he just stayed in the Marines for forever. So Korean War came around, and he's infantry guy, Marine Corps infantry. And of course he goes to Korea, did however long he did there, then came back, stayed in the Marines throughout the 50s. And when Vietnam rolled around, well, guess where he was? Right there in 65, going to Vietnam. And spent how much ever time there, I really can't remember, and then retired sometime in the 70s, I think. Nice guy, liked to drink a lot, but you've been in 3 tours, three different wars. Think of it: World War II, island hopping, Korea, Chosin Reservoir, and whatever else, and then in Vietnam too. And retired. And I always thought, man, when you look at, I'm thinking about it. His parents were from Mexico, and he was born here in the States. And I think I remember meeting his mother at one time when I was a kid, probably mid-70s. I met his mother there when they lived in San Antonio. That's the only one I ever met, was his mother. Never met. I know he had brothers and sisters, but they were all, I want to say they were all basically farm labor back then. That's about it for him. And I did meet a guy that was a high school friend of mine's grandfather that had actually, funny story really. He didn't get drafted. He signed up to go to France in World War I, whenever it was, 1916, whenever it was. So you figure he was born 1890 something, 98, 97, 98, 99, somewhere in there. 18, 19 years old when he went. And he came back and decided that he was going to hitchhike around the country find himself or whatever. So he actually ends up in Georgia and gets arrested in Georgia for vagrancy because he doesn't have a car. And no visible means of support. When they used to do stuff like that, they just lock you up, put you in a chain gang or work gang or whatever you want to call it. So he said that he was there and he ran. They were out doing whatever work detail he was doing, and they didn't have him on manacles or nothing. And he took off running and escaped, and just went and went and went, and finally got out of Georgia, and went back to Maryland. I want to say they were from Maryland. Well, I knew his father was from Maryland, but I don't know about his grandfather. His wife goes, and you got to realize they're both in their 80s at this point. His wife goes, he still won't drive through Georgia. If we're going to Florida, we have to drive all the way around Georgia because he's afraid that they're still looking for him. So he won't actually go to Florida, won't even drive through Georgia. Now, I met a couple others. I was on honor guard there for a while and had to do a St. Barbara's Day ball, which is for field artillery, which is what I was in. And, met some old geezers there, World War I, World War II, whatever. There are a bunch of them there. And, cool old men. And I've known a lot of guys from different groups, World War I, World War II. Met guys that were in Royal Air Force, RAF. Met guys that were in the British Army, met German guys, met some French guys one time that were veterans. And they're out there, man. Everywhere. There's millions of us. It's not like there's a few. There's literally millions and millions of us. I was 17 years old when I went into basic. I wasn't the youngest guy there. There was one guy there that was younger than me by like a month maybe. And he was from Maine. So to me and him, it was like a game. It was fun. And, we used to make fun of the guys that were in their 20s because they were like, guys in their 20s that were joining the military were like a bunch of screw-ups, basically. And a lot of them just, they, for whatever reason, joined the military, joined the Army, or whatever. I know you guys run across them that were just screw-ups. Now, I did have a guy that in basic that was my bunkie, I guess, bunkmate, that was actually he had been in the Army in Vietnam, got out in 73, 72, 73, whatever it was. And he was a combat engineer in Vietnam in 72, 71, 72, somewhere in there. And he had gotten out of the military. And for whatever reason, he was just under the cutoff, which at that point I think was 32 years old. So he was just under that, or right at the cutoff for that age. That was having to go through basic again, because the last time he had gone through basic was basically probably about 1970 or 71, something like that. So he's going back through basic to be, he wanted to go through OCS to be an officer, but they made him go through basic, whatever. And, lost track, how it goes, lost track of him over time. And anyway, he'd be retired now anyway. Because I got to tell you, if I'd have stayed in, I could have retired full benefits at, basically 15 years ago. Would have been 30 years. basically, somewhere around that anyway. I don't know exactly, but it's damn close. It's been a while. I could have retired with 30 years at 47 years old. And they kept telling me to re-enlist, because I made rank really quick. I made E4 in a year and a half, basically, shortage MOS. So it was kind of easy to do it. And, what could have been. Now, I did go through my regular duty station. I did have a guy there that was, I can't remember which section he worked in. Wire, maybe? Meteorology. I think it was meteorology, which field works, although you do use meteorologists for wind and whatever. And he, before he ETS'd, he applied for Navy to go to flight school because he already had a 4-year degree. What they did back then was he already had a college degree before he joined the military. They had a program where they would basically pay off your student loans if you did 4 years. I think it was 4 years as an enlisted man. So he did 4 years as an enlisted man, and before he ETS'd, he applied for Navy to go to flight school. So we both ETS'd about the same time. He goes, I got into the Navy flight school. Cool, man. Good for you. So, you lose track of people over time, and hooked up with him a couple of years later, and he was flying F-18s or whatever they had. I think it was F-18s off of the USS Nimitz there, and lost track of him again, and called up with him, really 10, 12 years ago, something like that, and he had just retired from the Navy. So he had, it's pretty much set. College degree, had his over 30 years in service, and then retired and was doing, basically got a contracting job, defense contractor. So, doing good there. But, that's about it. That's, like I said, I'm not going to sit here for 2 hours doing this and then have to edit the video down to 30 minutes or whatever. But anyway, you guys take care and have a great day, man. It's your day. Live it up. I don't know that I'll be working much out here today. It's pretty cold in this little building here. I do have the heater on, but it's not really warming up much. And, arthritis is a bear. So you guys take care. Have a great day. Appreciate you. Thanks for liking. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for subscribing. And you guys take care. We'll be doing what we're doing.